Hi, and welcome to CryptoBiography. I'm your host, Brandon Starr, and welcome to episode 97, The Last Zombie Hunter, Part 6. And if you have any comments or questions about this episode or previous episodes, cryptobiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Twitter or Facebook. The last episode ended with Fred and Mackenzie decided to get a little scientific and raid a nearby paintball store for supplies so they could tag some zombies. But they haven't done that supply run yet. And here we go. Shall we go zombie tagging then, I ask? Hell yes, she says. Okay, planning time then tonight. For now, let's have some food. I'm always stressed out after doing that hiding in plain view for hours. Then I'll bring the dummy back in. I'll fix dinner, she said. It was a joke. We were down to just dried food now. If we were really feeling fancy, we'd put it on an actual plate instead of eating it out of bags. I'll try to make a nice balanced meal. I can even make a protein with the last of the jerky. That sounds nice. I'll wash up and join you. Washing up was always a bit of a treat, since we still didn't have any water other than our drinking water. I would use the smallest amount possible using a relatively clean rag. As we munched through yet another meal of jerky, dried fruit, nuts, and trail mix, we started to go over our plans. Let's do a water and food run first, I said. If the worst happens and we run back here under siege, I don't want it to be on low stocks. And of course the tagging itself might cause a siege as well. Agreed, Mackenzie said. You know what? I think I should go on the water run with you. Really? I said. Really, she replied. Not that I don't have faith in you or anything, but if you died, I don't even know where you get the water from. This isn't my part of town. I'd have to search for it, and it would be dangerous to figure it out. Okay then, I said. Let's do food tomorrow. That'll give me another day. I think I can work up a second water rig so we can bring more water back. Will it all have to be dry food? She asked, making a face. Well, mostly, I said. The cans and so on will still be good for some time, I presume. But the water weight is a killer. We can do a lot better just bringing dried food back. But, on the other hand, I said, I've always allowed myself to use about a quarter of the weight to grab whatever caught my eye. I got some candy last time. And actually, candy isn't even a bad food in our situation. Lots of calories with light weight. She brightened a bit at that. Thanks. I started work on a second water rig that night, but didn't have time to get it all worked out. My first rig I had worked up by going out and getting parts. This time I was using leftovers. It would work, but it wasn't ideal. I suppose if need be, I could make another parts run. The food run went well. Some of the worst of the rotting stinks were starting to get better, though Mackenzie had trouble dealing with them. And the food was still mostly intact. This troubled me as yet another indication that very few humans were still around. The worst part happened on our way back. We heard a roaring noise. Shit, I said. It's coming from behind us. Move. We hustled and got around the corner. We were only a few buildings away from home. It was at a house with a big bush in front of it. We ducked down behind, but not before we made sure there was an open escape. The back fence was torn down, so we were okay on that score. The bush was in front of a T intersection, so there was a road going left to right and also out away from where we were. The road that went out also had another street intersecting it a block away. On that further street, we saw a person screaming and running. We were pretty sure it was an adult man, yelled the entire time he was in our sight. About the time he left it again, an entire crowd of the dead followed him, only somewhat slower than him. I wasn't sure if he would make it or not. There were probably a couple hundred of them. We froze and just hoped they would all continue. The crowd passed, for the most part, but there were stragglers, mostly composed of those who had injuries that kept them from going full speed, the ones with twisted ankles or even broken legs. All of them were moaning. Lots of others could be attracted by all this noise, I said. We should try to make it home right away. The crowd went in the general direction of our home, she said. Yes, but if he ran straight, he'll stay a block away, I said. If, she said. But, okay. We need to see. We went out the broken back fence, slowly, always looking for new zombies. Even though we were only a few houses away, it took us 15 minutes to get to my relatively open backyard. The noise of the crowd had faded. However, in my backyard was a broken-backed zombie pulling itself across my lawn. Though with the warmer weather, the grass had grown and would soon turn beige, so it was barely a lawn anymore, and we decided to wait until it had gone around the corner. It was still crawling in the direction we assumed the crowd had gone when we quietly made our way to the ladder and climbed up to the deck, pulling it up behind us. We put the food away and then took a rest. Our rule, unspoken, was that when we saw a big swarm, we would hunker down, never leave the house, and make as little noise as possible. This was partly practical, but also gave us the chance to just unwind as much as anyone can now. This time, when we relaxed in the living room, I could see Mackenzie was stressing. For a moment, I felt embarrassed, so I looked around the room. My living room had changed. The useless TV was still there, as was the furniture. That was the only part that remained the same. Meanwhile, I had boarded up the windows. There was no easy access for zombies outside these windows, but in case we were besieged by humans, I didn't want panes of glass to be the only thing keeping them out. So it would have been dark. Fortunately, there was a skylight where the living room met the hallway, which gave a reasonable amount of light during the day. The tables had been turned into workstations where I could create or repair things. I had a number of tools for repairing antiques, which I had brought up. So while you could be comfortable, you would be comfortable among a lot of half-finished projects and a bunch of tools. I was reasonably organized with them, but still, there were a lot of things everywhere. When I felt I couldn't look around the room anymore, I looked back at her. She had a strange look on her face I couldn't read. She looked not sad or angry, but uncomfortable. "Mac, you okay?" I asked. She shook her head. "I just got my period," she said. "Oh," I said, "I don't have any supplies. We didn't get any today." "I know. This is the first time." "Oh," I repeated. "Congratulations, I guess." She looked a little angrily at me, but it softened when she saw how embarrassed I clearly was. "Did you say you never had a woman live here before?" "That's right." "Ever have a girlfriend long enough to have them sleep over?" "A couple of times." "Then I'll take my chances." She left for the bathroom. We always kept it closed. Since we couldn't properly flush, it always smelled of urine. I could hear her rummaging around in the cabinets. She called back, "I'm in luck. Someone thought they wouldn't be around long enough to need supplies." Julie, I thought. "Yeah," I said. I choked up. I hadn't even thought about Julie in years. Now all I could think about was that she was probably dead somewhere, or worse, one of them. "Those would be like 12 years old," I called back. "Yeah," she said. "Amazing how you can have things in your bathroom cabinet that long without knowing it. Anyway, they haven't ever gotten wet, it looks like, so I think they're okay. Beggars can't be choosers, right?" I nodded, even though I was still on the living room sofa. Julie. Shit. And that's the end of the episode for today. We'll see you next week. If you have any comments or questions about this episode or previous episodes, CryptoBiography@gmail.com, or hit us up on Twitter or Facebook. Thanks for listening. Copyright 2019, CryptoBiography LLC, all rights reserved. Characters and events are fictional, fictionalized, or satirical.